Good evening and welcome to the EKU Alumni Spotlight Series. I'm Dan McBride, Associate Vice President for Development and Alumni Engagement at EKU. And I, once again tonight, will be your host for our special episode tonight on the Alumni Board. This is the point in the show where I usually promote and preview some upcoming events that we have, but tonight is our final broadcast of the school year. Graduation was this past weekend. We have the students all on their way. They've headed home and we're all ready to relax a little bit for the summer. The weather's getting better and we know that folks will be vacationing and spending time with their families and enjoying the sunshine and hopefully a little bit more of a normal life than what we've had the last 14 to 16 months. So we're going to take a little break over the summer for our virtual programming, and this will be our final spotlight show for this year, but we will be back in the fall with a whole lineup of new shows. This is our 15th show since we kicked them off back in October with Dr. David McFadden, our first guest on the show, our new president here at EKU. I guess we can still call him new. And since then, we've had a lot of great guests. We've learned a lot about some great folks who are EKU alums and some of the things that they are doing around the state and around the country, and in some cases even around the world. And we hope that you have enjoyed those shows. And we want to thank all of you who have tuned in regularly. I know a lot of folks have come back for each and every episode, and we do appreciate your support and your faithfulness. If you have missed some of our past shows and would like to go back and check them out, you can find them all on the alumni website, which is alumni.eku.edu. Just go there, and there is an Alumni Spotlight tab where you can check out all the shows and watch some of our past shows. So hopefully you'll come back with us in the fall and join us as we get going again. But great way to end tonight. We are going to talk a lot about the EKU Alumni Board, and a lot of people hear about the Alumni Board, but they may not know much about it. So tonight we're very especially happy. We have our outgoing Alumni Board President and our incoming Alumni Board President, and they are both going to talk a little bit about their experiences on the Alumni Board and kind of what you could expect on the Alumni Board if you were to join. Also, as an EKU alum, what you can do to reach out to your Alumni Board if you have input that you would like to give. So with that all being said, let's get the show underway. Our first up, I think we're just going to bring them both in together and talk to them both. We'll start with our outgoing president. She is finishing up 2 terms as our EKU president. She is a 2-time graduate of EKU, earning her undergraduate degree in 2005 and her master's in 2008. Please welcome to the show. And I say that like there's going to be a round of applause, and unfortunately there isn't because we're not in front of a live studio audience, but welcome Amy Jo Gable to the Alumni Spotlight. Good evening, Amy Jo.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And also her successor, and he will take office July 1st of this year as the new EKU Alumni Board President, 1972 graduate of EKU. Please welcome Mr. Bob Sullivan. Bob, welcome to the Alumni Spotlight, Bob.
Thank you. Pleased to be here, and I'm very pleased with what's been going on with the Alumni Board.
Well, it's been an unusual situation because we've had Amy Jo serve back-to-back terms, which is not something that normally happens with the Alumni Board. But fortunately for us, Amy Jo was gracious enough to stay on and serve 2 terms. Amy Jo, let's start with you a little bit and talk about, as you look back on, and you've been on the Alumni Board for a long time, not just the 4 years as president, but as you look back on your time on the Alumni Board, and especially the last 4 years, just kind of what your thoughts are.
Thanks, Dan. I really appreciate the question. I have been on the board for 9 years, the last 4 serving as the president, and it has just been the most rewarding experience. I think the thing that I like the most about the board is the variety of people that you meet. We try so hard to make sure that the board represents the alumni base and the student body. So that means that we have a variety of graduation years and ages and demographics and where people live and all kinds of different things. And so I would never have met a lot of the people that I have interacted with if it weren't for the board. So thinking back just on my time, I think that I'll cherish the friendships, and I truly believe that there has been friendships that have been made. And I'll also just always remember the positive strides that I think that we have been able to accomplish as a representative body of the alumni base. We've really tried over the past 4 years to make sure that we are out and that we can be at different events pre-COVID. I know it's pretty hard right now, but we've tried our best in any way that we can to just make sure that we are present and that we are advocating for the university, for our students, what the needs are. I'm very proud to say that we have had 100% giving from our alumni board members all 4 years of my presidency, which is something that was a big goal that we had, so that we're all giving back to Eastern in that way too. So those are just a couple of things when I think back on my time that I'm really proud of and that I'll definitely miss.
Yes, and there have been some other great accomplishments since you took over, and we will talk about those more in just a minute. But Bob, I also want to give you a chance. You've been on the board for a fairly long time as well. Originally, I think coming on as the ROTC representative, and talk about your term on the board and how you've enjoyed it.
I came on board, as you mentioned, as the ROTC representative for the alumni board. And then I got involved a little bit with scholarships. And more recently, for the last few years, I've been on the awards recognition committee. And that has been fun. It's been fast and furious for a few weeks or a month at a time as we decide who will receive the awards. And then it's just continuing. And what's I'm really impressed with, especially on the awards recognition, is the number of people and the great things they've been doing for the university, not only for themselves and their professions, being professional in it, but also giving back to not only to the university, but also to their community. And I think that's what it's all about. And that's what you certainly mentioned when you recognize the newest alumni during graduation. The talk we give to them is all about service and giving back to the community. And I definitely think the university does that. So that's been very rewarding to me. And also it's echoing what Amy Jo has said, is that we recognize various people from all backgrounds at the awards night. And also want to thank Amy Jo for leaving me in a great position. The board's been doing great. And just want to thank you publicly. So I appreciate it. I want to carry on the torch with you.
Bob mentioned the awards committee, so let's talk a little bit about the committees, because some of the folks watching tonight may not realize what committees we have and how they work. So, and I know, Amy Jo, one of the things that happened when you came on board is you kind of changed the committees around a little bit. Tell us a little bit about where we were when you came on and where we are now.
Yeah, so when I first joined the alumni board, we had 40 to 45 people that sat on the board. It was almost just too big. There weren't a lot of places that we could meet. It ended up being a little bit more formal. And it was just hard to have really good interactions and conversation and really get down to business. There was a lot of just, we would hear a lot of presentations, which was great. We really loved those, but we also wanted to be able to give back, which is the reason why we all joined. So under Tom Martin, who was the president right before me, we really started seeing a shift with his leadership and the officers and committee members with Tom of let's be more intentional and really specific, and how many people do we truly need to be able to do the work here. And so we started kind of slimming down the number of people on the board. So now the current total of board members is a minimum of 25. So we can have more if we want to, if we ever think that need comes, but we need to be a little bit smaller. And with that, then we needed to slim the committees down. So again, when I started, there were 5 or 6 committees. They rotated kind of as things were happening with the university, or we saw that there was a need. And that is still absolutely the case. So we now have 3 committees that sit on the board. The one that Bob mentioned, awards and recognition, that he has shared. We also have board development that is really intrinsically focused, recruiting new members, looking at our governing documents and policies, and then also scholarship and student success. And so I think that between those 3 committees, you can really tell what the goals and the mission of the board is, which I think also just reflect the university.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about each of those committees if we can. And starting with, we'll finish with the Alumni Awards and Recognition because I want to talk about some of the stuff that Bob touched on. So let's start with the Development Committee. And the Development Committee, I know, has started on some pretty serious work of recent days, really working on creating some bylaws for the Alumni Board because, believe it or not, we did not have any up until this work started.
Yeah, that was one of the many goals that I had when I came in. We have a constitution, and we've had a constitution, of course, since the Alumni Board was founded. But that was it, and it was 5 or 6 pages. It's grown over time, but it wasn't really just the procedure. And it said you needed to have 3 officers. It didn't give a lot of detail on what those officers needed to do. We need to have members, but what is the responsibility of those members? And so those things, though, don't necessarily belong in a constitution. The constitution should not be reviewed every single year. So the Board Development Committee took the task to take the Constitution, look at other alumni board sets of policies and procedures, manuals and bylaws from a number of different colleges and universities, and they split out what we needed to from the Constitution and made a set of bylaws. So now we have 2 sets of documents that will help govern the alumni board. That Constitution's still in place. That's kind of the heartbeat and tells us what our purpose is, but then those bylaws that tell us how to fulfill that purpose and give some additional direction for us. So that's the big thing that they have been working on. It has been a pretty intensive process that they've been working on for a few years, and it is set to come to a vote in the fall. So hopefully Bob can take that one to completion for us.
Yeah, one of the other things that committee does is they are the ones who help recruit new members and present new members to the board. And so I think they've been pretty active with that, especially in the last few months.
Absolutely. So we just at our last meeting, which we had in April, just last month, they've all been virtual this year, of course, because of COVID-19. So we're really hoping that we can get back together soon on the Campus Beautiful. But we just at our last meeting elected 5 additional members of our alumni board, and we have been presenting new members to the board almost every meeting. So that was another big shift. Previously, it used to just be, there was one time a year that new members would be selected. They would be presented to the full board and selected. And we really decided as an executive team that we need to select new members whenever we need to select new members. And we never want to get to a place where you've got 10 people rolling off and then half the board's new and the other half is old. And so we just started making that more of a whenever the need arises, whenever we have great people. So we had 5 this time. We expect that, I expect to see that the new board we'll have some additional ones to present in October. So that is something that we do kind of regularly now. And we're always taking nominations and applications. So if you know anybody that would be great for the alumni board, or you're interested in yourself, don't hesitate to learn more about us by visiting the website. The nomination form is always live there for you to complete or send it in for somebody else.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Zoom broadcast, and obviously everybody's been having to do everything by Zoom. But as of right now, Bob, our plan for October is to do it in person, right?
We certainly hope so. It'd be great to do it.
And one of the things, we meet on homecoming, the board meeting is on homecoming, which works out well because it gives all of the alumni board members a chance to come back to campus, and the timing works out pretty well. Let's talk a little bit about the scholarship committee, because that committee has really done some great things, and it has kind of evolved, Amy Jo, under your presidency also. Talk a little bit about how that's kind of changed in the last few years.
Yeah, so I'm just so continuously impressed with that committee and the work that they do. When I started, all of our scholarship applications, which when I say that, it's the legacy scholarship that I'm talking about, that we are able to award because we have an endowment, and the endowment says that the alumni board is able to make those determinations and selections of how that money is spent. And so when I first joined the board, it was, of course, a paper application that the students submitted. We got all of those and reviewed all of those, and we might have had 30, 40 that we would get, not very many, because as you can imagine, it was kind of hard to find. Did you even know that it was out there? And now, a few years ago, we were able to put that online. And so we have just seen an increase and an increase and an increase in the amount of those submissions that committee then goes through and determines. And we had, I can't remember, 350, 400 different submissions this year. It was incredible, the amount of students that applied for that they were able to award. And they just determined this is how we're going to honor those students. And $500 a semester if you had this certain GPA. And so we gave hundreds of thousands of dollars out to legacy students. And I'm so excited to watch them come to campus and hopefully have a great experience like we all did. And that's one of my favorite things about the fall meeting is we start getting those thank you notes from students because the scholarship office sends those our way that we can kind of pass around the board table. So I'm really hoping, Bob, that you get to have that one in person so that tradition can come back for you.
Right.
Yeah. And that's one of the great things about being I know there was over 400 applicants this year, and being able to give that money out and recognize and help more students has been a big
thing.
I think too, there was a kind of a mindset earlier that they weren't spending all the money every year.
Right.
And the pool was building up. And so now the mindset is let's put that money in students' hands and let's help as many people as possible.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Yes, that is absolutely something that we looked at, and we started just considering the other ways. So, of course, we want to be true to the endowment fund and how it states in our memorandum of agreement and understanding. And so we follow that. The vast majority of those funds are going directly to our alumni legacy students that are coming to campus. But we also have some discretion to spend additional dollars in however we see fit to support the university and the missions of the university. And so one of the things that we're proud to be able to support through those dollars is the student alumni ambassadors. So we are able to support our officers through scholarships, professional development for that group. We could not function without our fantastic student alumni ambassadors. So we're able to give and to help them in that way. And then we have also, over the past couple of years, we've really heard a lot from our scholarship office, from our financial aid office about what diversity scholarships, what is needed there, what some of our students need to make sure that they are able to get that kind of that gap money sometimes, if you will, to make sure that they're able to continue their studies or to come back for that second year, maybe that the first year. I don't know that I can come back for my sophomore year. We definitely want them to. So we've also been able to contribute to deserving other funds through our dollars. So this time we gave it to the Rodney Gross Fund. In this current year, we were able to contribute. And then last year, with everything going on with COVID-19, we made a contribution to the SAFE Fund to support our students that needed just some additional assistance because of COVID and all the things that were going on with that.
We've talked a little bit about the different committees, and I know that you will want to recognize those people who have helped you, not only as your other officers, but as your committee chairs, which will lead us into the rest of our discussion. But you might go ahead and mention some of the folks who've been on your executive team over the past couple of years.
Absolutely. So I mentioned just the most recent committee, that Scholarship and Student Success, has been chaired the last 2 years by Chris Radcliffe, who is rolling off of our board as well after 6 years. So he has been just a phenomenal partner. Board development that I mentioned before is being led by Laura Rudolph, and she thankfully is going to stay on the board. So I'm excited to see her and the continued work that she will do. And then, of course, Bob is on here. He is the chairman of our recognition awards and recognition committee, and Bob was actually the vice president in my first term. So I'm so pleased to see that he has continued board leadership, and I'm excited for his presidency. And then kind of rounding out the officers of the board, the other people who have supported me in this last term, the vice president of the alumni board is Ray Arnold, and the secretary of the board is Allison Allgaier.
Excellent. And you mentioned Bob as the chair of the Awards and Recognition Committee. And this has been a tough couple of years for the Awards and Recognition Committee because of COVID. And obviously the highlight of the awards is being able to present them at the annual awards brunch. And so I know, Bob, that's caused your committee to have to shift a little bit and make some changes as to how you present those awards.
Well, this year we certainly hope to be able to do it at the homecoming, and we wanted to do that on Saturday. We still have some details to work out on that, exactly where it's going to be, the timing and everything else. I think over the summer we'll certainly be able to clarify where that will be. And unfortunately, we did have to skip a year, and we have some great people that deserve these awards, and we're looking forward to giving them out. So we just right now have to keep our fingers crossed for good weather and a great place to host all these people that have these awards. So
yeah, and we should mention too that there's not a new set of award winners. We are honoring the ones that were picked last year, and we didn't get to recognize them in an event. So it's the same group from last year.
That is correct.
And that will be at our annual awards brunch.
Yes. So we'll start working on the next group as soon as we can.
Homecoming weekend, yes. And Amy Jo mentioned her officers. Bob, I know you're still lining up your committee chairs, but you might mention who the other officers will be with you as you take office July 1st.
Well, Lucy Riffle will be taking over as president, and we also will be having Allison Allgaier with us also this year. So we're looking forward to that, and great people to work with. So I have a good group of people with me, support me.
Yeah, I think you and Lucy will be a great combination. It'll kind of like be salt and pepper together. You guys will make a good team. Let's talk a little bit about Bob. Kind of, you said, you obviously hope to carry on Amy Jo and what she started. As you look ahead to the next 2 years, anything specific that you're really hoping to accomplish, or goals that you have coming in?
Well, initially, since as Amy Jo had mentioned, we have 5 new people coming in, and hopefully we can have an orientation for them, perhaps the homecoming weekend, maybe sometime that Friday, possibly before the board meeting then. And then also I want to continue on a couple of things right now that Amy Jo started. That will certainly having people working in different or having our committee meetings or board meetings at the various departments throughout campus. I think that's a great way for people to be able to see everything and find out what that particular department does. And I know a couple of them was certainly over the sports area, and the one I really enjoyed too was over in the nursing department, finding out what they have and what they do over there. And it's just amazing what these various departments have and the direction that they were taking the students and really helping them out. So that was I just love doing that, and I want to continue doing, working in different departments and seeing the campus beautiful and carry that on. Also want to, we had working on, as we mentioned with the awards committee that Amy Jo had mentioned about working with the Greeks. So I want to get in with them. Hopefully we can have meetings and get the award and have the Greek life people recognized that have gone out and done great things for the campus and the service that they have done for, the communities where they live and recognize the Greek life. I want to continue with the education of everybody on the committees and working with them and getting people involved. I want to stress that we want to go out into the communities where we live and mention the great thing that Eastern has to offer especially, with the reduction in the cost of coming on board onto the campus, scholarships availability, and just mainly just preaching about the campus beautiful about Eastern. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be other things that I'll have to pick up on and get oriented on and drive my own direction. But for right now, I just want to continue with what we have and carry the torch that Amy Jo left us.
Absolutely, and big shoes to fill. You mentioned the meetings. Amy Jo, let's talk a little bit about that shift in the meetings, because I think it started probably before you became president, the meeting at different places on campus. But when you became president, you shifted a little bit of how the meetings go, and talk a little bit about kind of the culture shift there.
Yeah, so Bob, I really appreciate you bringing that up, and I remember fondly that meeting where we got to see all the various things in the nursing department. So I'm glad that you brought that up. That is one of the highlights of our board meetings, is not obviously being together, yes, hearing about Eastern, yes, and getting those updates, but just being in various places around campus so that you get this really tangible way to see what our students are, what they're experiencing, what their needs are, how we're able to help fulfill those. It just comes alive for us. And our meetings kind of prior, when I first joined the board, and I hate to keep saying when I first joined the board, but they were a little bit stuffy at times. If you can imagine, again, there were 40 of us. There were only so many places that we could meet. There was a little bit more formality to the meeting because it had to be like that to keep everybody kind of at bay, to be able to start on time and end on time and all of that. And so one of the things that we really tried to just focus in on as we were able to lessen the amount of people, try to build those relationships. It was much easier to do that. But the other thing is we always tried to make the meeting around. You mentioned that our fall meetings around homecoming. We had our meetings in the past at family weekends sometimes. We've done them, of course, when there was an alumni weekend in years past. And so with that, just being able to participate in things on campus did not always lend itself well to if you came in a suit and tie. So we started shifting the culture a little bit, just again, based on relationships, based on love of Eastern. Colonel Casual is what I always called it, but it was just wear your maroon and come to the meeting, and let's just make sure that we're focused on the business at hand and learning about Eastern. And sometimes it included lunch, sometimes it was a breakfast bagel. Like that was just not the whole goal of the meeting. And so I did appreciate that shift, and that everybody kind of went along that path with me. Of course, it takes a minute to be okay to realize that you still can have a very frank and honest and straightforward conversation, even if you're just in spirit wear. So I think that was something that I really valued and appreciated that those board members participated in with me and kind of, came along for the ride with that. And I saw the note about coming to business. We would love that. We did have a meeting in the Art Center that is not near close enough. So, Bob, I think you should take note of that.
Okay, will do.
We'll put business and technology on the schedule. And Bob, and you mentioned this a little bit. You talked about the board members going out in their communities and sharing the news about EKU and spreading the word. And I know President McFadden has really emphasized that not just the admissions office, but every area of campus is part of enrollment. And that's a focus and a drive for the university in the coming years, is to really boost and increase enrollment. And I know that's something that you'd kind of like to make the board, an emphasis for the board as well.
That's correct. The university has so much to offer now, especially when looking back when I came on board in '68. There are so many great things going on. You have aviation. I'm always preaching that because, it's about the main one for our state. A few other ones have it, but we're gone so far. I just like it going out and telling the community what I have, and I'm always talking about Eastern Kentucky University. A few years back, on the scholarships, they were asking for some alumni to go out to the various high schools. I did that, I think, for 2 years. And I was really proud to be able to give some great scholarships to some of the top-notch students there at the various high schools. Unfortunately, they stopped it. I think they have people now from that particular board do it, but I miss doing that. And I'm always talking about the university, what it has to offer. And there's such a plethora of various degrees that they can get. And I think we're achieving it all. We have excellent people. This past Friday, when I was able to participate in the graduation, just all the number of the degrees they had, the top people, the top students, they were going different directions and everything. I just love talking about the university, and I will continue doing that always. So I really want to support it.
Yeah, we were talking about the meetings, and I probably should have mentioned this when we were talking about the meetings, but one of the nice things and fortunate things for our alumni board meetings is, and it started, I know, with President Benson and continued by President McFadden, is that the president is at most of the meetings and comes and gives a campus update. The vice president of our division in development and alumni engagement comes and gives an update on our division. And then whatever area of campus we might be in, we have someone from that area come and speak about that area. So the meetings are very educational, as well as hopefully getting some work done and making some progress for the Alumni Association. Bob, you mentioned coming in 1968. I think there's been a shift a little bit in alumni culture. There was a time in the 60s and 70s where I think people really associated with their class, and the classes were much smaller. And so there was a lot about the early 60s, probably into the early 70s. They were very close as a class. And then, Amy Jo, as you got into the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, we find that students don't necessarily think of a class when they think about their time at Eastern, but they think about an affinity group and what group they were involved in, whether it was, AOPI with you for a sorority or Bob with ROTC. It's the affinity now that I think people really think about when they think about EKU.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Dan. One of the things, and I was so proud of Giving Day and our second annual Giving Day and how successful that was. And I am extremely pleased that the alumni board was such a huge part of Giving Day. But I will say, if I had to say anything negative about Giving Day, it's that I have to pick one affinity group. So it's very challenging to say, oh, I will be an AOPI and give to this. I feel like I need to give, multiple $5 across so I can be one of everything. But I agree with you. I am very connected still and feel a huge part of Student Alumni Ambassadors, Student Government Association, of course, AOPI, even the College of Education, the affinity that I have to just the college that I graduated from and wanting to know the great work and see the success of that college. I think that is something that is a huge connection for me, more so than the class of 2005, especially because I was a December grad. And so a little bit smaller class, not necessarily, if you pull my record, it technically says 06 because of the academic year. So I think those are some of the reasons that we feel a little bit more tied to those affinity groups and some of those things that we're able to participate in on campus.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about people who might be watching who would be interested in possibly serving on the board. And you both have mentioned we have a very diverse group on our board. We have graduates from all different years, all different regions, not just of the state, but of the country. We have from lots of different states. And I think it's important that we let people know if they're interested, if they want to get involved. We want them. We want people who want to get involved. Yeah,
absolutely. So I joined the board when I still lived in Kentucky, but now I live in Tennessee. And so I'm in the Nashville area. So, it's a commitment to say that I will definitely make it up for these meetings at this time. And we have people that are coming from a lot further than I do. And I think that's one of the reasons that we really tried to shift to make sure there was more that you were doing with your weekend than just the 4-hour alumni board meeting, that there would be other things to do and participate in and give back to on campus. So anybody that's out there that's interested in being on the board, there is some commitments outside of just the fun that we've been mentioning. We do have 3 board meetings a year. So they are typically the winter, spring, and fall. And then we also do want all of our board members to give back to the university. We do not set a monetary amount, so there is no minimum level. It is just whatever is meaningful to our board members. And then we want them to be good advocates. So Bob has mentioned that and the things that he wants to continue to support in the way that he just spoke about Eastern when he's out. That's what we love to see about our board members, is that they're advocating for the university, and then just participating in the variety of things that are going on, however you can, whether that's something in your community, if you're local enough and you could come back and help. I know Bob has helped with move-in days in the past. And so there's just lots of things that our board members are able to participate in. So those are a few of the things that, if you're interested in the board, that we will be asking of our members, and we continue to ask. So minimum expectations for sure, but they are definitely something that's valuable, because we just can't do it when we don't have good participation.
And Bob, what message would you give to someone who might be interested in joining the board?
You're broken for a minute.
Just what message would you send out to someone who might be interested in joining the alumni board? What would you say to them?
I would parrot what Amy Jo was mentioning, that there is a minimal commitment of the 3 times per year. You can get involved as much as you want. We do expect, support on one of the various boards. We need to have that, and everybody can do it. As mentioned, there's 3 days a year that we ask for you to come in. Of course, always for homecoming, that would be an additional day if they can stay for the following, Saturday for the football game. It's fun giving back to the community, to the Eastern community. Enjoy it. And as Amy Jo had mentioned, I also enjoyed the move-in day. It's amazing to see what the students bring in these days that we were never allowed to have. And if it was confiscated over the holidays. It was taken out, our little burners for the sandwiches or something, hot plates, I guess they mainly were back then in the late 60s, early 70s. So it's not that much a time commitment from everybody. There are certain dates we need to do. I think you feel a lot better. The university gave us a lot back then, and it still does. And it's just giving back, and it's one way of serving the community and serving the school to pay back. Every little support helps, and I think you feel better for it, certainly. And I've always enjoyed, since moving back to Louisville after the service, it's fun to do, and especially watching the campus grow as much as it has, and really expanding too. It is campus beautiful now. A lot of the old places have been fixed up, old dorms taken down, new ones built on the spot. So I've benefited from it, and hopefully what I've given has helped the Eastern Kentucky University. So it's fun. I think you feel better for doing it.
All right. We do have one question from the viewing audience tonight, and either one of you can answer this, or both of you. But where would you like to see the alumni board in 5 years? And are there changes that are needed for the future? So ladies first. Amy Jo, you can respond first. How about that?
Yeah, so I think about that in a couple of different ways. I think the first thing that comes to mind is elevate. That's the word that comes to mind. The Alumni Board, of course, is one of 3 volunteer boards for Eastern, between the Board of Regents and the Foundation Board. And we aren't always considered at the same level as those 2 boards. And so I would love to just see that in 5 years, the alumni board has just continued to elevate to be, when you think about Eastern and the volunteers, that you automatically do consider the alumni board. You say the 3 volunteer boards of Eastern. And I think that's something that we have really tried to do. And I think that that is embraced by the Board of Regents chair, by the foundation board chair. The alumni board president now goes to all the foundation board meetings and is able to sit in on those and to present what we're doing. And so I think all those little things help. But that is something that automatically comes to mind for me, Dan. The first thing is just that continued elevation. And then with that, I think I want the alumni board to continue to be a pipeline, not to brag, but the alumni board has been a really good place to find amazing people that go on to serve the university in a lot of other ways. So I'm not at all trying to diminish the board or pretend like it's a stepping stone by any means, but it absolutely is just a way to get people engaged and then allow them to do other things, to see things at the university in ways they can continue to give. President McFadden was a member of the alumni board when I was here. We've had foundation board members. When I first joined my very first alumni board meeting, I sat by someone who's now on the Board of Regents. So I just am incredibly proud of the various people that you meet and interact with, and how the alumni board just kind of is a springboard a little bit in some ways into continued service for the university. And I hope that continues.
Bob, any thoughts on what you'd like to see in the next 5 years?
I will confirm what Amy Jo had mentioned, that it is a stepping stone to the other boards. And I like that. I've seen several people while I've been here move on up to the different boards on campus. Certainly, I think in a couple of years from now, there will be emphasis in different directions, maybe more scholarships, maybe assisting people that, now just coming out of the COVID area, that things have changed, with the viewing that we can have on, through the various, what am I going to call it, through our laptops, you orientate different ways there. You continue having classes that way. I just think we need to, and I want to keep on top of what the campus wants. Which direction does the president or somebody want to take us? And I think we need to support the university in that direction. But definitely, it's a learning process here at on the alumni board, and I've mentioned, and Amy Jo mentioned, it's a stepping stone to others if you want to continue serving the campus beautiful here. So that's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you, sir. And I think you both hit the nails on the head there with some great thoughts about that. We're just about out of time. And so I do want to mention that people can find more information on the alumni board on our website, alumni.eku.edu. If you go there, there is information on the current alumni board, information on what is expected of alumni board members, and there is also a form that you can fill out if you are interested in joining the alumni board. Amy Jo, I know on behalf of the rest of the board and the staff, we want to thank you for the past 4 years of service, your many years of service, but especially for the last 4 as president. You've done a great job, and we've really seen a positive change in the board. And I know that your leadership has been a big reason for that. And we're going to miss you. We're excited about Bob. But again, just thanks for the last 4 years. And we appreciate the things that you've led us through and the changes that you've made.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate y'all too. I'll try not to cry right now, like the last meeting.
And Bob, I also want to say we're excited about what's going to happen in the next 2 years. Looking forward to you and your team. I really think you've got some good people on your leadership team, and you and Lucy together are going to be dynamo. And we're excited about the next couple of years and where we're going to go.
I am also. Thank you.
All right. The presidents-elect and outgoing president of the EKU Alumni Board, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for sharing your thoughts and your experiences on the Alumni Board. Amy Jo Gable, our outgoing president, and Bob Sullivan, our president-elect, who will take office on July 1. Thank you both for being here tonight and a part of the Alumni Spotlight.
Thank you.
All right, that is going to wrap things up for us tonight. Again, we want to thank everybody who has joined us throughout the year. It's been a lot of fun doing these programs, and we have already started working on some of our guests that we will feature in the fall, and we want you to come back and join us in the fall. And we have there are lots of EKU alums out there who are doing a lot of great things, and we're going to continue to talk to them and continue to share their stories and their EKU experience with you. As always, I want to say a special thank you to Alex Hanovan and Steve Greenwell, who work behind the scenes each and every show to make the magic happen. And they put together everything and try to make those of us who are out here on screen look as good as they can. So thank you to those guys behind the scene. Thank you for watching. Until next fall, that'll wrap it up for this edition of the EKU Alumni Spotlight Series. I'm Dan McBride. Thanks for watching.